Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Mark from Right Line Trading, and I really have the pleasure of introducing you to Dr. Keith Wade. And I just want to talk a little bit about him before he starts his presentation. I talk to a lot of people out there who have trading systems and who trade the market, and really nobody presents to me anything that's really very, very powerful. And then I had the pleasure of talking to Dr. Wade, and Keith and I have been exchanging information. He's been sending me a significant amount, actually all of his trades for the past 2 months. His videos, which he makes 2 and 3 videos a week, and he gives precise entries, targets, stops. He's been trading the Mexican peso. He's been trading crude oil. And I've just been stunned at how powerful his entries are. I mean, normally we don't think of swing trading futures, but I'm telling you, this man who's been doing this for over 30 years and who teaches finance and as a professor does research, is just amazing at what he does. I mean, he has found incredibly strong seasonal patterns, very, very unique style, but very, very precise and extremely accurate. I don't know if you saw his statistics from last year, but he had close to 90% of his trades as winners. And that is just really amazing. And I'm telling you, he is the real deal. So it really gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Keith Wade, who's going to talk to you about his futures picks and how he uses seasonal patterns to swing trade futures.
Well, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that fantastic introduction. It's been a joy working with you as well. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you good. Volume's
Perfect.
Good.
Great, thank you. So welcome, everybody. Again, my name is Dr. Keith Wade. I look forward to giving you some material tonight that will hopefully, worst case scenario, at least educate you a little bit about what I do and why I think it's been so successful. Swing trading is a concept that scares a lot of people. And as I get into it, I'll explain kind of my procedures and how I handle it and so forth. Before we do a whole lot, let's go just into the risk disclaimers here. Everything we talk about tonight is for educational purposes only. And careful consideration of your financial positions should be made prior to trading. Basically, if you can't afford to risk money, if you need to live off certain money, don't trade it. Okay, that's the bottom line. That's kind of how I always teach people. And again, I am not a registered financial advisor, nor am I a licensed commodity trading advisor. But yes, I do have my doctorate in finance and have been researching and trading for a long time now. And very excited to present this to you tonight. So before I get into my brief bio, one question I always get, so let me just kind of clear the air. You can do this sort of trading, futures and Forex, okay? There's seasonality. Also, by the way, in stocks, ETFs, it's absolutely amazing. Certainly tonight I'm keying in on futures, but for those of you that, for example, maybe trade Forex or just trade stocks, or you trade a combination of things, there's absolutely a seasonality plays a role, a strong role in all of these type of instruments. So as I mentioned, I do have my PhD in finance. I've been teaching for a while now, and I've been really lucky because I've been able to learn the markets over the years and get paid to do that and teach students how to trade. So again, I feel extremely fortunate to be doing that. And then just recently, based on just all the data I've been able to gather through the years and my exciting results and success that I've had, I just want to share it with everybody. And so as we're kind of going through this, I will stop and look at questions throughout. But definitely, if you have any questions, even after the fact, I'll have an email and so forth, and feel free to contact me. As I started trading and learning the markets, my first 3 or 4 years, I simulated traded. I just learned everything from day trading, which I still do to this day, part of day trading. In fact, I use seasonality as part of my day trading strategy. So for example, if I see, okay, there's a good 2-week window that 90% of the time prices are going to be higher in a particular instrument during that window time than if I'm doing a day trade off of, let's say, a 30-minute or hourly chart. I'll only look in that one direction to increase my odds. But again, most of my trading nowadays is the swing trading because I'm really passionate about it. I've been doing a lot of back testing, and I'm going to show you some data here. I'm going to go over and show you some live charts as well. Bottom line is, when I've traded futures, forex, ETF stocks, I've day traded, I've swing traded, I've just invested. The one thing I've learned that excites me every time I talk about it is the power of seasonality, and it's an incredible tool to really get the odds stacked for you to be successful. I ended up going to seminars from a lot of the gurus that teach seasonality, like Larry Williams, Jake Bernstein. I've learned a ton of information from these people. I've purchased about every system you can think of. I've been pretty lucky. A lot of my colleges paid for it. But I got every system out there with data. And then what I started doing several years ago is creating my own. I do a lot of back testing. So I'll look at certain windows of time. Let's talk about for a minute the euro currency. Okay, I'll go and do back testing and say during certain windows, how are prices behaving and why. And again, based on my research and being a professor at universities, I'm able to do this during my work. That's as part of my research. So I've been very fortunate with that. Typically, I won't even look at a trade if the odds are less than 80% of probability to be successful. And you may say, well, wow, why is that? Because there's so many potential trades out there. I don't see a reason not to have the odds stacked against or for me. Typically, I also like to look at least 15 years of data. Typically, the more the better, because obviously 80% of 35 years is going to be a higher probability trade, in my opinion, than 80% of 15 years, because it's just more data, right? I will take all my trades when I'm seasonal swing trading off the daily chart. And again, in the video, if you've had a chance to watch the one that we sent out, typically what I'll do is I'll enter in at the end of the day session. So yes, there's overnight margin. We'll talk about that towards the end a little bit. And then once I place the trade with my video newsletter, I will tell everybody, it'll be on the chart. Here's my stop loss. Here's my profit target 1, profit target 2, and so forth. So big picture, what is seasonality? Is any predictable change or pattern in a time series that continues to happen year over year, okay? I've also been able to do a lot of research on why some of this happens within certain commodities and so forth. But honestly, I'm just a data junkie. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's working, who cares why? Some people say, well, if everyone knows about it, why isn't everybody doing it? It's very powerful. And I guess my main answer when I've talked to other traders and gone to conferences and asked that question, they don't believe it still. They think it's going to go away because it's gaining more and more popularity, or they just don't have the patience. Trading is about patience and waiting for the execution in order to be successful. So I'll just start out. I will show some live charts here in a minute, but I just wanted to start out and give you an example of the power of seasonality. So for the S&P 500, typically right around the second week in November, there's a really good seasonal long through the month of December. Okay, maybe it's the holidays. Everyone's happy and they want to put money into the markets and so forth. But 32 out of the last 36 years during this window, prices have been higher. Okay, that's 88% with 36 years. So that's a pretty big window. Let's say 6 weeks or so, right? So during that, I don't just go long second week in November. Okay, I do know some traders that do that. They have big deep pockets and they will take that type of heat. I'm not willing to do that. So part of my research, and when I first started trading this, I kind of went off of certain dates that the computer told me to. And then I'm like, well, maybe I can do better than 80%, maybe 85, maybe 90, maybe 95%. And what I found out was by just having some good disciplined techniques of getting your actual entry, you can be much more successful. I don't like to lose. any trade. Granted, that will happen, right? If you've been trading long enough, you're going to lose. To me, 9 out of 10 winning trades, that's good. Typically my stops, which again, I'll go over all this in examples, but typically my stops will be 2 times my initial first target. So, I need to, in order to do that and to be successful, right? If I just win 5 out of 10, that's not going to be successful. So when you're swing trading, you need to have some room for these variances and price action. But big picture, 90%, I'll take that every time. So how do I do it specifically? What I do is based on all the research, all the computer programs that I've purchased and so forth, I scan for weekly trades to see what's out there, okay? I know every week there's going to be trades out there waiting. Once I find those, I will then go ahead and get to the daily chart and then say, pinpoint, what are some actual good trades coming up? How can I get into them? Well, that's basically my setup. So the seasonal window is my setup. Then I need a trigger. I'll show you on some of the charts my triggers, but I use a lot of different scenarios, and I always select the trigger that happens first during that seasonal window. So for example, maybe it's momentum to the upside. Maybe that's what I was looking for. Or one of the great methods I've learned through Jake Bernstein's work is the moving average channel method. And so maybe I go long based off of his method. What I'm going to show you an example of in a little bit is off of divergence. Then I also look at other factors though, because again, one of the main things I look for is if I can get a trade that I think is 95% or higher probability, I'm going to load in the contracts as well. Okay. So if I see, for example, the commitment of traders that the commercials are extremely net long something, and it's mapping out perfectly with the seasonal window, and maybe the small sentiment traders are extremely short when they tend to be wrong in the trades, right? I call that the perfect storm. And then I also look at the seasonal pattern mirror, I call it, is the price action from year to year looking like it's mapping out the same way, in the same direction. Sometimes I won't take trades because the trades aren't actually mapping out the way that they have in the past. Something's going on. It could still be a successful trade, but with the amount of trades that are out there, I'm going to pass on that one and go to the next one. So again, I must have at least 80% probability, and typically it's 85 or 90 if it's less than 15 years, but most of my trades, the data is over 15 years. Typically 30 to 35 is the ideal amount of data I like to look at in order to make sure that it should be a successful trade. And as I mentioned, I will risk up to 2 times my initial target. And again, I will show you examples of that on some live charts here. Okay, so this is the Australian dollar. What I want to show you on this chart, this big green line I drew here is the entry date. Typically for the Australian dollar, the second week of April for about 2 weeks is a very powerful long. Okay, so as I'm looking at this, I set up a watch list. I'm looking at that. I know that, sometimes they trigger early. If they trigger too early, sometimes I'll miss them, or sometimes they trigger a little bit late. But based off my entry techniques, for example, and these are all real live trades that I sent to Mark. This is all verifiable and so forth. But anyway, I got in right here. And again, when I do the videos, what I will show you, I'll explain in more detail why I'm going to do the trade, what I'm looking for. But I always show you, here's my stop loss, okay? Now, for my initial stop loss, I actually use it as the end of the day stop loss. So if it were to come down and hit, but then come back up by the end of the day, okay, I won't get out of that trade. I always have what I call my safety stop loss, another 2% below that in case something could crazy really happen, then it'll get me out of the trade. But my stop loss is a stop loss at the end of the day, and I'll show you an example on how that works as well in a future trade. And then I have my entry. And then I use a 3 contract system. Okay, so and you can do multiples of 3. So you have large pockets, you can do 6 or 9 or 12. But my entry, and then I always have my profit target 1 and my profit target 2. So what happened here is we got in, didn't take any heat on this one, and right here you can see on 413 my profit target 1 was hit. So what I do is as soon as my profit target 1 is hit, I take all the risk off the table. So 1 contract would be closed out. I then move my stop loss on my other 2 contracts to break even. Okay, it's always a great feeling. I don't care how many times you trade. Anytime you can make money on 1 contract and have no risk per se on the other 2 contracts, that's a great feeling. Okay, if you're only able to trade 1 contract, then you would basically go to profit target 1 and cash out. So what happened here is it hit it and then it kind of went sideways, and you can see it almost stopped me out on my 2nd and 3rd contracts here at break even, but it didn't. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. It may or may not today, stop me out and move on, but either way, this is a profitable trade. The reason why I like to hang on to these, and I'll show you some examples here today, is, well, let me see, do you mind hitting a full screen option? Let's see here. I can find that. Is it hard to see? Okay. So once you have your profit target 1, all the risk is taken off the table. And then what's nice about a lot of these, especially if you can do multiple contracts, is that in many cases you'll get some runners. If this gets up to profit target 2, I will take the 2nd contract off, but I will still keep my 3rd contract at break even and see if this thing can run. So this particular season window is 2 weeks. I will stay in the trade longer. If I hit profit target 2 and I still have 1 contract in the trade, I will stay in this as long as I can. You might get 5 or 6 of these runners a year, and those can make you thousands and thousands of dollars with no risk. So, many times what'll happen is it'll hit profit target 2, and then I'll have 1 contract left. It'll come down and get me at break even on that 3rd contract, right? So yeah, I'm giving up some profits doing that. But from my research, you can get those big runners, and when you get those runners, that far outweighs that 3rd contract of getting break even stop. Okay. All right, let me give you another example here. Okay, British pound. And for whatever reason, British pound tends to be a little bit it's the same window date, believe it or not. It tends to be a little bit stronger though than the Australian dollar. The success rate of this one is usually around 92%. So what happened here was I got in right here. The seasonal window, bring that down. The seasonal window was again the 2nd week till the end of the month. You can see here it hit profit target 1 fairly fast. Again, that is honestly the power of seasonality. And then it hit profit 2 relatively fast. So at this point, again, I had 1 contract to break even here, right here. And my hope was that this thing just keeps hammering forward with no risk, right? Well, the last couple of days it came down, and then today actually it stopped me out on my 3rd contract, right? So currently I am flat on this particular British pound, but I did, I made 2 contract profit. One thing I'll look at doing as well, I'm pretty highly confident that between now and the end of the month, British pound is going to go higher again. So part of my trade alerts would be, just because I'm out of this trade now, since the window is still active till the end of April, I could go long again. And you can do that multiple times and make multiple money by doing that. So just because the seasonal window, if you get out and you made money once, it doesn't mean you can't get back in. Okay. Bring my watch list up here. The next one is crude oil. So this is a very interesting trade. I think this is one of the first ones I had marked too, sent mark. So this is the entry date right here. Okay, crude oil, those of you that like to trade crude, again, this could also help you if you still day trade and you understand the power of these seasonality. But the seasonal here is the last week of February through mid-April, which is a long, okay? Most of my trades right now are longs, but seasonality does work, by the way, both ways, okay? It's just right now the markets and everything's pretty strong right now, this time of year. So the seasonal is the last week of February through mid-April, okay? So it's a pretty big window, right? Over a couple months. So what I look for, it actually, if you can see, it actually kind of started early here. I missed the initial entry, right around here, which is fine. I mean, there's no rush. I'm pretty patient. But I got in here based off of the pullback, right to this green line, which all this is a moving average, an 8 period of the low. And you can see it didn't go right my way right away. I took some heat. This was my stop, $60, end of day stop. And so, right here, it actually hit it, but it didn't close at 60. So I was still in this trade, so I had a couple of days of, boy, what's going to happen here? Third day. And then it finally, made its seasonal run here. And once it hit it pretty fast. Once you hit profit target 1 right here, my stop goes back to break even, right? So being in crude with 3 contracts, for example, taking one off the table and having 2 contracts that can run, crude can move pretty good. That's a good feeling. The other option you could do is, if you, based on your account size, but you want to trade 3 contracts, you can do the minis, okay? They're usually like a 1/10 of the normal size, but that way you can do your multiple contracts and get practice at it as well after you're done with simulation. So anyway, it hit my second profit target right here. And then what I did is I always keep my 3rd contract almost always at break even. And so you can see it came down, that 3rd contract got me before it made a second move, okay? And that happens, that's trading. But again, it was a really good, successful trade. One thing though you can look at doing, as I talked about, with these good seasonal windows, this is actually a good entry point right here again. I didn't do this one, but hitting the moving average channel system that I like to use, going long at this point would have been another really good trade, okay? All right, let's talk about E-mini again. I know a lot of people like to trade E-minis. So it's a really good seasonal 2-week through April. Okay, the last 2 weeks. So we're in it right now. And so again, for you day traders, you can certainly still make money short depending on your time frame, but the markets want to go long this time, okay, this time of the year. And you can see here the entry date that I went in right here on 4/13. I hit my first target 2 days later. Didn't quite get, let me just expand that for you, didn't quite get to target number 2 in time before it's come down. So right now, I've got 2 contracts still active with my stop at break even, right? So again, the great thing about swing trading, folks, is when it works your way, and typically they do go your way right away, okay? When that happens and you can eliminate risk, all your risk, but have multiple contracts in a position, it's like Christmas every day, and it never gets old, okay? It didn't quite hit target number 2. Now what I'm hoping is by the end of this week here, going into next week, we hit target number 2, and then, again, there's no risk in the trade, but the S&P could continue higher. I think it is going to hit new highs this year based on my longer term forecast, but there's a lot of craziness going on in the world right now, so who knows? So again, all my risk is taken off now, and we can just hope for higher prices and make more and more money here. Let me just see if there's any questions real quick. Okay, so I had a question on my targets. A great question. So typically, I will look at, in some cases, it will be, the first target will be the width of this channel here. Other times, it will be, I'll look at like key resistant levels. So it kind of depends. And again, I do say that clearly in my video when I'm making the trade though. Okay, so there's not any did he say it or not type of thing. But I will look for key support and resistance levels as well. My stop typically will be about double of my first profit target one, like I said, and so forth. So one of the things I found very powerful as well is if you have a high, like let's just go back to like maybe right here. A key resistance is typically the close of that bar. So if we were higher up in price here and it was getting right up to here, for example, that would definitely be a profit target because I would expect it to hit that, come down before it came back up. So, so width of the channel, I'll look at key resistance levels. The other thing I look at a lot is part of the data that I get will tell me during this 2-week seasonal, it goes up X%. Okay, so if it goes up, let's say 10% typically during that seasonal window, then that will also help me calculate my profit target one and my profit target two. Okay, so going at a 10% example, maybe I do 5% for target one, 5% for target two, and then I always leave that runner. Okay, and yes, that runner will get stopped out at times, but again, you will see some amazing runners. I'm going to show you one here in a minute. Great question.
Keith, can I ask you a quick question?
Of course.
How much margin is required to hold these contracts overnight?
Great question. So every broker is going to be a little bit different, I know a lot of the users here use Ninja Trader, and it also depends on the instrument. So for example, right now with the craziness with the markets, the S&P, for example, is roughly around $5,000 of margin. So again, if you have, a $5,000 account, you would have to trade. You could still trade. You would just trade the minis. Usually currencies are around $3,000. Like the Mexican peso, euro, pound. A lot of the currencies the average is probably about 3,000. The indexes right now are about 5,000. Okay.
And that's per contract, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. One question I have is please explain the two moving lines on the chart. Sure. So this is just one of the methods that I use, and I learned this from Jake Bernstein. He uses this. He basically formed this moving average channel method. All this is, folks, is 10 period of the high is the top line, and this is an 8 period of the low. Okay, and there's a separate class on this, but basically, when you're going long, the green acts as support. So anytime there's a good seasonal long and it gets close to the 8 period of low, the green line here, I'll typically look for longs. And if you see the channel widening, that's usually even a better indication that, yeah, that price is going to go in that direction. So I use a lot of different tools because I told you I typically look for the one that's going to trigger first because of the power of that window. Yet I just don't go blindly because then I feel like you're just taking too much heat in many cases before it turns and goes into your direction. And again, going back to Mark's question with the margin, if you do the minis, as an example, you can do the 3 contract with the minis for a fraction of that margin, and that's just a great way to build up that account too, for sure. All right, Mexican peso. This is one of my favorite instruments to trade. You can see I got stopped out here today, but there's a great seasonal long that started. Basically, it's all of April. Okay. So I got in on April 9th here when it came into the channel here. And again, it was a good entry, didn't take any heat here. Hit my profit target one, 4 or 5 days later, just missed my profit target two, right here, missed by a couple ticks. But again, I stayed on my process there. I did not close anything out there. And then it's had a couple, today was a really big down day and it got me out. So basically I made 1 contract profit with 2 stopped out at break even. Okay. Now I'm going to get back in here. So if you're subscribed to my service, probably in the next few days, if not even tomorrow, possibly, I will be looking to enter again Mexican peso. Very predictable, very good seasonal patterns here. But I won't catch a falling knife either. With a big down day like this, the probabilities are that it will go higher tomorrow, but I'm actually going to look at an intraday chart tomorrow and time it more on an hourly basis. So there may be an entry tomorrow based off of that. Again, if you work all day, not a big deal. All that would mean is if I ended up saying, it's a good long, maybe you want to take a look at doing that, you could do that at the end of the day tomorrow as well. Another example, I'm just trying to mix up the different markets here. Okay, I missed this trade, but I thought it'd be a good one to share. Part of my video as well is I do like to educate. So I'm always still learning everything about markets. So as I learn things or things that I've seen from my experience, I will put those in the videos as well. It won't just be, here's my trades. I like to educate as well. So the window here is roughly from March 15th to March 31st, okay? Now, greater than 90% chance RBOB gasoline is going to go higher. It's incredible, incredible. So, some people would just go long on the 15th, okay? Again, I don't do that anymore. But what I did was, if I would have caught this and I missed this, this would have been a good entry right here, going long on the 8th, just from the moving average channel method. Typically, when you have a big gap up, it's going to come back down to resistance there, and then you would go long. My initial stop would have been down roughly right about here. But this would have been a successful trade. But the reason I wanted to show you is this. So let's assume we would have went long here, okay? Let's assume profit target 1 maybe is right here. Maybe profit target 2 is about right here, okay? So again, 2 contracts would have been taken off on this trade. You would have had 1 at break even, and look at that. You would still be in the trade, okay? And you'd be making a lot of money right now. And the thing is you could literally stay in this trade for who knows how long at this point with no risk, right? And you can always at some point, you don't want to give up all your profits on that third one. You could use some sort of, like I will use a parabolic SAR if the seasonal window's closing. Maybe my contract is getting close to expiration, or I'll have my broker roll it over. But you can literally make on that last contract thousands of dollars on those runners. And I have a feeling this might be one of those runners, and of course I missed this trade. but that's just the power of the seasonality. Okay, natural gas. So this is an example of one that I didn't get into because even though it looked decent, it wasn't quite mapping the way I liked it, okay? So again, I'm very picky on my trades. I look for the highest probabilities, and then from there, I do my research to get even higher probabilities. And what was bothering me about this particular trade, so natural gas, start of March through May, okay? So it's a pretty big window, right? March, April, and May, 3 months. So this is a particular instrument that you can go in several times throughout that seasonal window. But what I didn't like about it was if I looked at my historical pricing for this particular instrument, natural gas, it wasn't following that pattern from the past very well. So it made me a little bit nervous. And I wasn't willing to put a stop down here and risk that much money. So I put a pass on this. And it would have worked out probably to profit target 1 and then stop me out or break even on the others. But as you can see here, just doing a little technical analysis, we're in a box right now, right? So what I'm looking for here, for this to break out right over here, to break out, and then I won't go long until it comes back into the channel and then go long. But I want to see a breakout first. It's consolidating too much right now, okay? So again, this is just one of those examples where you got to be patient. Certainly it could have worked out, but I didn't like everything about it at that point. So I held off. And I also didn't like the momentum down here, but there's several reasons. But anyway, still would have worked out to an extent, but we'll get into this. So I pretty much tell you at some point here, we will be going long natural gas. All right, let me pull up questions real quick before I go into the next one. All right, perfect. Oh, I did have a question on what platform is this? This is TOS, TD Ameritrade. What I like about TOS, because I do like to trade different things. You know, I do trade with seasonality, like I mentioned, futures, forex, ETFs, and stocks. So that's why I use TOS. I use TradeStation as well. I do have a Ninja Trader account recently as well. I'm learning mark systems, which are fantastic. But this is TOS. And again, what I like about this particular platform is it allows me to trade a lot of different instruments that I like to trade. So as an example, so this is gold. Let's say you were more of a stock trader. Instead of gold, you could trade GLD, which is the gold ETF. As you see, the patterns are the same, basically the same, okay? But maybe you'd rather trade an ETF versus the futures, okay? Let me just go back to the gold though. Okay, so what I want to show you in this trade, I'm going to scrunch the chart up here just a tad. This is a very, so if you get nothing else out of tonight, remember this, folks. Gold right around the holiday, this Christmas time, okay, a little bit before Christmas time, gets very bullish year after year, okay? I don't know if it's Santa. I don't know what the heck the reason is, to be honest with you, other than start of the year, people want to put money into gold. Very powerful here, okay? So, for example, well, I'm very aggressive on the gold trade come around Christmas time. So any sort of way, whether it's divergence, whether any of the other ways that I look for the entries, the moving average channel. The moving average channel basically gave me a long right here, okay? And again, so if you would have done that trade, let's just assume we all did that trade. You would have got, obviously, profit target 1 and 2 very easily. But do you see what I mean by the power of that third contract? We would still be in the trade today, okay? And gold can continue to rise throughout the year, okay? So those runners can make you lots of money. And again, if you're saying, well, I can't start with an account that large, you don't need a large account if you use the minis. You know, gold has a mini account as well, and it will build up fairly quickly for you. Or, you know, just trade one contract, and at your first target, you'll get hit, right? You'll make your money, and then you can save that money for your next trade. But gold is very powerful start of the year, and every year I get in, it's just all about the entry. And again, the cool thing about getting in with ETFs and so forth is you can keep those as an investment. You don't have, you know, the margins in that, right? It's like a stock. So if you would have got into that particular trade, you know, you'd still be in it, making some pretty good money, and you don't have to worry about the risk as much. But that's a different seminar. But anyway, so very powerful tools there. Okay, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoints here. So those are just a few examples. And again, if one of the questions may be how many trades can you do? There's a lot of trades. There's unlimited type of trades that are out there. When you're looking at all the different instruments out there, between, you know, I didn't even show you a bond trade, but between the bonds, the currencies, the metals, all the indexes, you know, the Russell, the YM, there's a lot out there. I never struggle to find trades. Sometimes it's a struggle of, okay, which is the best trade to take, okay? Very selective.
Keith, can I just interrupt 1 second? Didn't you have a great trade on silver?
Yeah, you want me to show you that?
Yeah, I'd like to see that, because I guess I want to mention something to everybody in the room about the silver contract.
Sure.
The silver trade.
Yeah, let me bring that up. Okay. So I had sent Mark a video, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks back, said keep an eye on silver. Couple reasons. The actual seasonal window on silver starts in May, okay? But One of the things I look at is commitment of traders reports, and traders. This is very powerful, but the timing on that can be more difficult. So when you have a commitment of trader that's showing the commercials, okay, the commercial traders are the ones that have the big pockets. They were the longest they've ever been net long on silver. Okay, that means huge moves coming to the upside. Huge move. This thing is going to move by at some point multiple dollars. Okay, it's all about timing. So when I have a good seasonal coming in May and the commitment of traders saying, hey, these commercials are the longest they've ever been, I'm talking ever, this thing is going to move and rocket up. So it's all about timing, right? So, you know, silver, again, that's a very expensive futures to buy. So what I would tell traders is, again, if you can, go into SLV. Okay, it's ETF of silver. What you could have did is just put a stop, let's say at $15, and just ride this thing up, and you don't have as much risk. But again, or you can do the mini silver. Okay, so what I get really excited about is when I see commercials net long, the most they've ever been or very close to what they've ever been, and you've got the power of seasonality. It's just all about the entry. It's all about the entry. So what I'm looking for now is, so let's say we miss this trade. I'm just looking for now a pullback right around, you know, to the bottom of the green line here, which again is the 8-period moving average of the low, and then go long on this. So that was a really cool. It worked out nice, and certainly if you're in this trade, you know, you've hit profit target 1 and 2. And then you're break even with a contract of silver, which can, you know, potentially make you thousands of dollars the rest of the year. So that'd be a lot of fun, right? That's your question, Mark?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to add one thing. When you made that silver recommendation on the video, yeah, what I did was I bought calls on silver Wheaton. They're up 105%. So another way to leverage your service is a lot of these calls, you can trade options on your calls because there are comparable ways to trade options, and your calls are so powerful and they move so strongly that you can really ride. Like I'm holding silver Wheaton calls. They don't expire until May. I'm already up 100%. I'm looking for another for 200%, and I took that trade solely on the basis of your bullish silver call. So, you know, that really helped me out.
That's right. No, that's right. And that's, you know, that's a great way to use seasonals. It's certainly there's many ways of using it. And it's not just the way I'm showing it. You know, one of the things too, I've also used is I like to sell credit spreads, and I'll use seasonals in order to do that. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of ways to mitigate risk and do that. And I'm glad that worked out for sure. All right. Let's see here. I did have a request to look for a short trade. It's been funny because lately they've been all long. Let me see if I can find one here real quick that I was thinking of. Yeah, I can't think of one recently, but it does go both ways for sure. It's just a matter of you know, which way is the market going. Certainly with commodities and with the, oh, you know, I know one. Let me give you the sugar. This is one I gave Mark too. So this is a sugar ETF, but again, you can also trade future sugar, where it's a good seasonal short. I mean, a fantastic seasonal short. Okay, so I didn't have time to clean up this chart on that, so I apologize. But basically, I got in, I believe it was right here. It was right here, and no, I'm sorry, it was right here. It was right here. I got in right here, and then it ended up gapping, which, and that was kind of lucky there. But anyway, we got the gap. And we just kept riding this, and it met profit target 2 and profit target 3 or I'm sorry, my stop loss is break even, and you still have 100 shares of SGG short. Okay. Now, one concern I do have on this, there's actually a really good seasonal long coming up in sugar. so I am going to probably not give up my entire 100 shares left. I'll probably start like using a parabolic SAR soon, because I think we're getting close to a bottom based off the price action here and hitting the low. But momentum is still to the downside. So that was an example of a short. Okay. Okay. So again, those of you that, if you don't have a preferred broker yet or something like that, I know NinjaTrader definitely has a lot of capabilities for you. And I was given this contact, Wade Hedrick. There's his information. If you are interested in a different broker, like with TOS, which is TD Ameritrade, or any others, feel free to email me, and I can give you recommendations as well. But again, I use TOS more than any of them because I like to trade the different instruments, and I just find that, I'm comfortable with that. But they're all, I know NinjaTrader is fantastic service there. All right, so again, the reason I'm starting this video newsletter service for everybody is I see a need for it, because one, the amount of information I've gathered over the years does take a tremendous amount of time, or even trying to sort through it yourself. So if I can give you the highest probability trades that I see, based on my research and what I do on a day-to-day basis, it's pretty exciting. I think that there's a big need out there. Those of you that do work full-time during the day specifically, you can come in after work. If there's a good trade, you can get in, put your stop, put your profit targets in, and walk away, right? And that's kind of the neat thing about it. What am I going to offer? Basically, I will do a Sunday kind of video that talks about for the week. What do I see? And then there'll be anywhere from 3 to 5 other videos throughout the week on the actual trades and what I'm doing. So again, just depending on the week, but typically you'll probably see 3 to 5 videos a week on average. Anytime something is a new trigger, or what I'm looking for, or if we hit profit target 2, I may send that out to you and say we've hit profit target 2. I'll keep you updated, or if we get stopped out, what are our next steps and so forth. We can also, there will be the option where you can get text updates, so that if you want to know if I'm doing something, you can get text. But again, I do give specific entry and exit rules, stops on every trade, full disclosure there. There's nothing, I'm not hiding anything. I'm just very confident in the power of the seasonality. I will also keep a running trade up on, I can email it out on how the trades are doing and what the profit and loss is and so forth, so you can kind of track that if you're not tracking it yourself. And then you always have access to my email at drkeith@rightlinetrading.com. Okay. Let me just see if there's any final questions here. So one question is, do I trade credit spreads? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. If you have any questions on that, feel free to email me on that as well. What I use credit spreads for is, if there's a seasonal long, I'll actually sell puts, credit spreads. Okay. And if there's a seasonal short, I'll sell calls, credit spreads, because selling credit spreads is high probability, and I'm a high probability person, so it's a good fit for me. And again, it's more of a swing trading type of trade. Okay. All right.
Hey Keith, I just wanted to add one thing that I've noticed, and that is that 95% of all your trades, if you don't have the account size, can be leveraged via the use of options, which makes it really advantageous. I've done it a couple of times, and it's very helpful because you pick the direction with remarkable accuracy, I have to say. And the other thing is that there's a lot of newsletters out there, but unlike almost all of those, Dr. Keith takes the trades he recommends. So he's just not putting out an educational service. he's risking his own money when he takes these trades in his own live account. And I think that to a huge extent, I mean, it changes the nature of the newsletter. It's not obviously Keith wants to make money on it, but he is also taking every trade with his own money and risking and putting that up front. So it's a big difference than throwing a trade out there in a newsletter. And if it doesn't work, well, who cares? Because you just want to garner subscribers. I mean, he's in these trades too, and so am I. I'm going to be in every trade he takes because they're just remarkably accurate. And I have seen him. I've seen this process for 2 months evolve, and I've been really, really stunned. I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, that is the truth.
Yeah, and what to your point too is, the nice thing too is you're absolutely right. You can trade options off of the recommendations. You can use it as well, or if you want to just strictly follow, based off my video, again, the E-minis is a great option. They're usually a tenth of the size and so forth. And what a lot of traders will do, is simulate for a month or two, get a feel for it, let it be proven to them, and then they'll go into the micro, trade the micros, and then once they build up that account, they'll start going into regular size. But yeah, that's great. And it's great that you have all that experience with your newsletters and so forth with the options, and absolutely the students can just do a killing, but by hitting it right. That's what options is all about, hitting it at the right time. So yeah, so basically what we're offering then, right, Mark, is $9 for 30 days. If you're not happy with it, you can get it back. That's not my intent, is to take money from you if you're not happy. And if you see the value in it after the 30 days, $99 a month after that trial period. And other than that, again, thanks so much for attending tonight. If you do have any questions, I will be on email, and you can always email me. What about you, Mark? Any final thoughts?
Basically, just nothing more than, like, we don't want you aboard. We don't want to take your money unless you're happy with the service. At any point you can cancel. And, the $9 is really nothing more than to show us that you're serious about it. 3 weeks out, you don't like it, just cancel it. We want you as a long-term, devoted trader to Dr. Keith, because he's going to call these, I'm telling you, 85 to 90% of the time. If you want to make money with him, it's ultimately going to be your call. And that $9 is just to get you acquainted with it, allow you to paper trade it, see how well you're going to do. And we think if you come aboard, you're going to become addicted to the service, because it's going to make you a considerable amount of money. And there are very few services like this out there that are able to do it. So, those are my only words. And I'm telling you, I've been doing these webinars for 5 years, and I wouldn't proffer Keith if he wasn't the real deal. That's all I can say.
A couple questions I see coming in. So, for example, if you're a Forex trader, if I give a recommendation to go long a Australian dollar, right, you can trade Aussie dollar, US dollar. So, you look at the price patterns are identical. So I actually do both. This service I'm focusing on futures, just so there's no confusion. But you can always also email me if you're part of that service and ask that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it works for either or without question. And then number of trades per month. It's hard to answer because I don't force anything. What I can tell you is there's plenty of trades. Probably an average, because again, I don't overtrade. Let's say I see 6 good potential trades for a week. I might pick the top 2 or 3 based off the highest probability. So, I'll just say probably anywhere from 8 to 15 trades a month. But if they're there, it could be more. If they're not there, it could be less. Okay. Oh yeah, so I always get the question on candlesticks. So I'm actually an old school. Let me just go back to the charts real quick. I used to use candlesticks, and I actually prefer. Let me just go in there and chart type. What is that? But if it's easier to read on the charts for future webinars, I can absolutely do that. Yes, yes. That's easier to see. So yes, the platform does allow for that there. Mm-hmm. All right, Mark, were you gonna is the link into the poll or the chat there?
I'm going to make sure that Rory does that now. Hold on one second.
I think I see it in there. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, the purchase link is in the room. We'll be sending you a follow-up email along with the a video recording of Dr. Keith's presentation. And we hope you'll come aboard because I think you're going to make really, really good money. And we really welcome Keith to the company, and he's really a welcome addition and a great asset. Thank you, Keith.
Great. Well, thank you, and thank you for everybody for attending.
All right. Well, listen, everyone, have a really, really nice evening. We hope, like I said, we hope you'll come aboard. Any questions, just send them to Dr. Keith. I mean, he's real good at answering email. He answers all of my questions. And if you like, you could give us a call. We'll be happy to help you out as well. Everyone have a really great evening. And no matter what you do, we really wish you the best of luck and hope that you make really nice money trading. Take care and have a really wonderful evening.